Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with his Monday guest, Emil. How you doing, sir?
I'm great. Good to see you.
Hey, man, I love this conversation. I actually have no idea where this conversation is going to go, but I thought it was like, dude, that topic is fire. So thank you very much for that.
Absolutely.
So here it is, folks. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you know that I am fairly certain that we are repeating the 1970s. I think the path, when you look at the 50 years, is pretty obvious. Buy with fixed rate debt, let inflation be your friend, all of those things. And Emil comes out of nowhere and goes, let's do a show about what happens if you're wrong. I'm like, I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be wrong. But dude, so I'll turn it over to you, and you just pick this apart because I have no idea where we're going.
Yeah. I always think it's good to, even if you have conviction on something, to say, what if I'm just completely wrong?
Oh yeah.
And explore what that could look like. So let's just say you're completely wrong. What do you think that could look like?
Yeah. So again, I don't know. I have no idea where this is going to go. This is just raw thoughts. So when I break down my thoughts of the 2020s repeating the 70s, I think there's a couple of things. The first domino for me is wages, right? I believe wages are going to go up. Wages sort of drove everything else, in my opinion, right? So that's the first thing. So what happens if wages don't go up, right? Wages are flat, or maybe we have automation and, suddenly we have universal basic income. Nobody has to work. I mean, the great reset, all this stuff that I don't believe happens. What happens if it happens? And it happens in my lifetime, because maybe it happens, but I think it happens after I'm dead. That is frightening, right? So first and foremost, wages down versus wages up. That breaks everything. Because if wages go down, that means the debt that we have all personally secured can't be repaid, because people are living so close to the edge right now. It's not even funny. So if wages go down, they get hurt. Wages go down doesn't really mean inflation stops. Maybe inflation keeps going, but then people have switching costs and do without. And if wages don't go up, bad. If we get a whole cycle of innovation, which I think comes, I just don't think it comes early. I think it comes later. But if it comes early, dude, we could see, unemployment skyrocket, which again affects housing and all of those things. So the first thing when I look at my dominoes, I have to go back to wages and go, the first thing, like if it goes completely opposite, is wages go down. And I just can't see it. I mean, I'm sitting here trying to squint and think about how it could happen, but that's the first thing I come to. What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's been a huge lag in wage growth for a long time.
Me too.
It's overdue. And now you have people can't find people to work. So what does that do? It's just going to drive prices up.
Yeah. So that's the first thing. So there's another one though. So the next domino for me, in my opinion, is rates.
Yep.
Right. I think rates go up, but they go up at a measured pace, again, because the entire world is levered on debt. That if rates shot up, that would be bad. And then again, I mean, there's two ways. Rates could shoot up, or rates could go lower, right? Rates could go negative, right? Break the buck. I mean, I think both of those would make my argument or my thinking wrong. So first and foremost, skyrocketing, right? Evergrande or the Chinese real estate market implodes. Nobody pays off their debt. Everybody's afraid to invest in property developers. Every country gets internal. They stop trading with each other. Those are all things that could lead to significantly higher rates, because when capital gets scared, the only thing it has is rates, right? And it insists on a higher return. So, I mean, if rates on the 30-year shot up to like 6% or higher, that stops housing, and could cause real ramifications. Although we still have fixed debt, subject to would be a big deal. But yeah, that could stop the real estate market in its tracks. And then the reverse of that, what happens if rates go down? I mean, I haven't even thought about that, right? The 30-year is at 3%. What happens if it goes to 1.5%? I think we've seen what happens there is pricing gets stupid. And then you bring the 40-year and all these other things out. I mean, I do not want real estate to go up 20% again, because I think that just becomes then it's the down payment. We're already kind of down payment constrained. But if real estate goes up another 20%, that's both things are scary. I think if I look at what's more likely, I don't think either is likely, but I think rates lower is more likely than rates at 6, because I think rates at 6 blows up the world economy. Rates going lower actually means governments can borrow more. So who knows how that ends?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think, I've always thought what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me. I just think it's interesting to think about what could happen.
Oh, this is fun. Yeah.
I can't see them going. I personally think they would go higher before they go lower. I just think there's too much money sloshing around for them to be like, yeah, let's just go.
Let's do that again.
Lower. Yeah, exactly. It would be crazy. Things would get so unaffordable so fast.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe they'll just have to keep ratcheting up interest rates. They know that there's such a shortage of housing, and it's like the forefront of everyone's mind right now. I just can't see them bringing rates up a ton either. So
yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, the other thing, if we really want to get gnarly, is what happens if the U.S. loses reserve currency? What happens if this, this World Economic Forum and the Great Reset and all these, 7 most powerful people in the world, suddenly bingo bango overnight, the dollar is dead, and we have this other currency called the widget, and your dollars are worth 0. And yeah, that could happen, I guess. I don't think it happens in my lifetime, but sure, maybe. And I don't know at that point, debt. What do you do with the debt that's denominated in dollars? Is there a conversion factor? What happens to everybody trading in gold or silver? Or the economic upheaval of that would be crazy, I think.
Yeah. I honestly think if something were to happen that really shocks the system, it's something that we can't even think of, right? It's not the obvious thing. It's not it's not wage growth. It's not interest rates. It's going to just be some different shock to the system that we don't even know about.
Well, I don't know. When you think about the economy, right, there's only so many factors, right? There's obviously debt, this kind of the lubrication, consumers kind of buying in product. There's the work in process, raw material aspect of that. There's automation, which, employ, hourly wages, all of that. I don't know. Even in the Great Depression, right? What was unemployment in the Great Depression, like 25% or something? That still means 75% of people were working. Now, again, it was very male dominated. It was a different era. But yeah, there's not that many levers, right? The big one for me that nobody ever talks about is consumers. And that's why I track consumers. When consumers get scared, like I believe is happening right now in China, and could lead China to actually have a recession and their own great recession. That's the thing that nobody talks about. When consumers are scared, we stop spending. Look at what happened in March, April of 2020. We had this new pandemic. Everybody is afraid we're washing groceries, for heaven's sakes. Silly things. And what did we do? We stopped shopping. We stopped spending. We stayed home. We watched Netflix and whatever. So it's that. Could something come out of left field and scare the consumer, right? If for whatever reason we had another health crisis like this, except this time people vaporized in 12 seconds, people would stop going out. Trust me, right? If you caught this thing and you were vaporized in 12 seconds, you'd stop going outside. So, you got to watch that's why that's really of all this other nonsense. I only track the consumer. There's 66% of the economy. They can be scared or greedy for moments in time. That's another thing about consumers, is even when they're scared of dying, they only retreat for a little while, because it's just in our nature to, I deserve this. I deserve that. I'll shop on Amazon versus going to the mall. We're just, the consumer, the rat race is real. So now we have buy now, pay later. What a horrible program that is. I looked that up the other day I was just toying with the idea of buying front row seats to a Warrior game.
Okay.
I think they were like $2,500 a ticket, right? Even too expensive for me to consider, but I was sitting on a couch, and then it says buy now, pay later. I'm like, oh, what's that? $500 for 12 months. right? So now it turns into freaking $6,500 or whatever it is. I'm like, who the hell would do this? Lots of people.
Lots of people.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Another to shift it a little bit.
Sure.
Do you think, leading up to 2006, a lot of creation of new homes, a lot of building. Do you see that happening again right now with all this demand? Do we just like start building again, and there's a breaking point?
Oh, that's a great question. It certainly could happen. It's not happening now. It is starting to happen in regional like Boise, Idaho, who is so far behind supply. They have more building permits than they've had in decades. But it's not happening at a national level. We are millions, tens of millions of homes behind, and builders simply won't do it again. The few builders that survived, remember that like it was yesterday. It's like, we're no longer going to do 100-unit developments. We will do 8, 10, 12 at a time. We will only build after sold. The building environment is vastly different. I cannot imagine builders going back to the way they were before. It's just, I was in a market where seemingly like 06, 07, there were builders everywhere. You can do lease backs. It was a great time. I think there's like 3 builders that survived out of 150 that were building in Fresno back in 06. And those 3 won't repeat the mistakes of last time.
Interesting. Yeah, I feel like people still feel those scars. It'll be interesting.
Oh, they're deep. Yeah, I mean, maybe someday when those CEOs who maybe they were 40 and they were front line and now they're the CEOs. Maybe when they retire in 20 years, we'll repeat it, but not in the short term.
Yeah, I think you're right. People were saying that when I started investing in 2017, people were like, "Oh, it's going to happen all over again." Like people who had those scars were thinking that, and that stuff looms in your mind for a long time.
Yeah, the thing you've got to watch is, again, it's the bubble. Everybody talks about the bubble after it bursts. I was watching the bubble inflate, and there's a difference, right? And again, I talk about it in the book. We got out before it popped, right? I even got out early. The first house I sold at 265, it goes all the way to 300. I got out early, but I got out safely. The thing you've got to watch is when I start saying no to tenants to rent and they get a home, that's a bad sign, right? Because I'm not saying no to tenants just because it's because they have bad credit or the income's not right or whatever it is. But if they can get a home loan when I say no to a rental app, that's a problem. That's not happening today.
That's a good benchmark right there.
Yeah. It's just, the lending standards today are better than they were then. They're light years different. And I would argue that lending standards are tighter today than even 18 months ago. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's hope no black swans come and wreck the party.
The only other thing, there's other things that could come out of left field, like national rent control. That could be a thing. Although that would be the Fed intruding on states' rights, which I think would be unconstitutional, but it could happen. We could see rents go down, which I just don't know how that would happen, but that would be a shock.
When was the last time rents went down?
Not in my investing career. I had to give move-in specials, but that was during 06, when again, I couldn't get, when I was saying no to tenants and they were buying homes, right? But rents were flat for me for 4 or 5 years. They never went down.
Yeah, flat. That's okay. You can live with flat, but
that's why I run my rents have never gone down, at least in my market. So it's fun to think about. I had never thought about what if I'm wrong, right? Again, what am I seeing? For me, it all boils. If I had to get gun to head, it's wages. Everything else kind of falls after that. So if I'm wrong about wages and wages go down, my entire model breaks. If wages go down, housing is absolutely unaffordable.
Yeah.
Without question. I think housing is, again, on a payment basis, pretty affordable, which is a combination of income and interest rates. But if wages go down, then housing is not affordable and we're in trouble. So this is such a great conversation. I never thought about it. So thank you.
You got it. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
All right. Any closing thoughts as we wrap this up? This was fun.
No, it's a good conversation.
All right, buddy. Thank you very much for your time. Enjoy your week.
Thanks, Michael.
Uh-huh.